A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to your News at 9, coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. I'm Joel Outskoon. Let's first take a look at this evening's headline-making stories.
An amendment has been introduced increasing government expenditure by 356 billion rupees following the budget speech, an allegation from the opposition. The coastal Lanka tragedy is a warning, a revelation from Dr. Ranil Senanayaka. More than 10,000 people affected by extreme weather, over 1,800 displaced. Ruling party MP expresses displeasure over External Affairs Minister's failure to respond to allegations levelled at the ministry.
අපි මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක් හැටියට ඇමතිවරයෙකුට පැහැදිලිව ලියන ලිපියකට ඇයි ලියුමක් ලියන්න බැරි ආපහු.
On to your top story this evening, the opposition pointed out in Parliament today that an amendment had been introduced to the 2015 Appropriations Bill prior to its adoption. The amendment in question proposed to increase the government service expenditure from 1,812 billion rupees to 2,168 billion rupees.
සේවා වියදම් සඳහා අවශ්‍ය වේයයි ඇස්තමේන්තු කර ඇති රුපියල් 1,812 බිලියන.
Estimated services expenditure of 1,812 billion 292 million 718,000. That is what has been mentioned as government expenditure. An amendment was introduced yesterday to change this. It proposes that expenditure be increased to 2,168 billion. This is astounding. The budget was presented a week ago. Within a week, expenditure has increased from 1,812 billion to 2,168 billion. When the budget was presented, they said that this was the expenditure. A week later, they are adding another 356 billion to this. The debt ceiling proposed was 1,340 billion. The amendment presented yesterday increased the debt ceiling too. That has been increased by 440 billion. So the monetary allocations had not been made to give what they promised. Although they said they would give it, they did not have the funds. They said they would reduce the budget deficit and debt. But now we can see the truth.
දෙනවා කිව්වට දෙන්න මුදල් තිබුණේ නැහැ. ඒත් මොකල්ද කිව්වේ නැහැ අපි ආයවැය පරතරය අඩු කරනවා ණය ගන්න එක අඩු කරනවා කියලා. දැන් පේනවා ඇත්ත මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා.
A media briefing was convened by the United People's Freedom Alliance today.
මේ ආයවැය හිඟය
The budget deficit is 521 billion rupees, which is $4 billion US dollars. Our foreign reserves as of the first quarter of 2014 was $9.2 billion. This economy is so strong that we can take $4 billion from our reserves and cover the deficit without having to take any further loans.
When a person is elected to a certain position, that person's tenure begins from the day he or she is sworn in. The best example to this is an order issued by former Chief Justice Sarath N. Silva. President Rajapaksa won the elections for his second term in January 2010 but wasn't sworn in until the 10th of November. So the president took office on the 10th of November. By September 2010, a section of the 18th Amendment to the Constitution had already been amended. So technically, the president was sworn in November 2010 according to a section of the 18th Amendment to the Constitution.
The people of this country, upon their request, have been given the honour of bringing victory to our leader who has always stood by their hopes and wishes by granting their right to vote. You might be aware that the person who has constantly been defeated has the right to contest more than twice. So the fact that the person who loses is given the opportunity to contest more than twice and the person who wins is not allowed to contest for a third time is taking away his human rights.
On a developing story, the Disaster Management Center says that over 10,000 people have been affected and over 1,800 people have been displaced in several parts of the country due to the threat of landslides and heavy showers. Senior geologist at the landslide unit of the National Building Research Organization, Dr. Kamini Chatisa, said that landslide warnings to certain districts have been extended. Meanwhile, several areas of the island were inundated owing to the inclement weather conditions.
Heavy showers caused many areas of the Puttlam district to be inundated. The Assistant District Secretary of Puttlam said that 3,675 members of 1,055 families are affected. Of that number, the Assistant District Secretary added that 191 displaced people are currently housed at 4 camps. Moreover, several houses in the Puttlam Mundalama, Chilau and Mahawava administrative divisions have been inundated by the heavy showers. The Sirimapura area in Mundalama in the Putlam district was the worst affected by the heavy rains. A tree collapsed onto a building of the Vatavala Tamil National College laboratory today. According to our correspondent, 3 students sustained injuries in the incident. Northwestern Province education officials said that the Indulgurkhanda Sri Nisanka National School in Kurunagala will remain closed until further notice due to the threat of landslides. The Pitavatta area in Dumalasoria, Kurunagala remains submerged due to the adverse weather conditions. Our correspondent said that 35 houses have been inundated, leaving 50 families displaced. These displaced families have been provided temporary shelter at the Kattimana Church in Dumalasoria. Meanwhile, areas surrounding Daduroya, Lunoya, Karavitavava and Munesaram Vava and several other reservoirs were inundated due to these reservoirs breaking their banks. Spill gates of the Thisavava in Anuradhapura were opened this afternoon. According to our correspondent, the Rajangani Reservoir was 1.5 feet below spill level as of this evening. The National Building Research Organisation has issued landslide warnings to all divisional secretariats of the Kegol, Ratapura, Matale, Badulla, Kandy, Noor Elia and Kalutra districts. Meanwhile, the Met Department says the reduction of thunder showers could be expected, adding that however, the rainy weather conditions could persist.
termusam කාලගුණ රටාවේදී තියෙන ප්‍රධාන විශේෂත්වය තමයි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් උදේවරුේ.
The significant feature in intermonsoonal weather patterns is that there is a very low rainfall during the morning. When the earth heats up in the afternoons, there is a formation of clouds and creates thunder showers during the evenings and night. This situation is prevalent today as well. However, over the next 2 or 3 days, we are expecting a reduction of this nature. Nevertheless, owing to the strong windy conditions persisting across the island, there is a possibility of intermittent showers being experienced in the western province of the country.
හැකියාවක් තිබෙනවා මොකද ලංකාව හරහා තිබෙන සුළං ධාරාව හේතු කරගෙන.
The continuing search for the remains of the victims of the Miriabad landslide was hampered by inclement weather conditions today as well. Security Forces Commander Central, Major General Mano Pereira, who is coordinating the search operation, noted that the operation is continuing in spite of the landslide warning issued by the National Building Research Organisation.
Central Security Forces Commander Major General Mano Pereira said that no bodies or parts were found within the course of search operations today.
Search operations in the Miriabad landslide area had to be suspended this evening due to the heavy rains that started falling. Although there was overnight rain and the soil conditions have become little more unstable and soggy, we are continuing with the search operations. And up to yesterday, we managed to recover a total of 9 bodies, plus certain human parts of certain human limbs. We are progressing with the evidence that have been provided through the recovery of these limbs and also other bodies, and trying to reach the other dead bodies which are trapped beneath the debris. At the same time, the road construction that is being conducted by the Sri Lanka Army Engineer Brigade is being showing good progress. There are 2 culverts to be completed for the road to be made motorable. As a first step towards encouraging reintegration of the displaced personnel into normal life, we have them to get back to their own areas, to attend to their cultivations, attend to their animals, and so that they could come back by evening.
Those displaced by the Koslanda landslide continue to be housed at the Poonagala Tamil College.
Central Security Forces Commander Major General Mano Pereira said that 57 families who were displaced by the Koslanda landslide will be relocated from the Poonagala Tamil College. He added that another building at Ampidikanda in Koslanda is being prepared for this purpose.
Where the relief centers are concerned, we are in the process of shifting all personnel that were directly affected from the Miriabad landslide members of 57 families to one location and thereafter provide them with a location where they could enjoy more privacy as a first stage of reintegrating this personnel who are affected back into their normal life. And the normal livelihood, we have allowed them to go out in the morning during the course of the day to attend to their farmlands, attend to their animals, and then come back by evening. Where the children are concerned, the education department has taken the initiative to conduct classes within the relief centers itself, and those children who are staying outside but who were studying in the schools that are presently being used as relief centers and who are to be appearing for the GCE O-level examination have been provided with opportunities to continue with their studies in spite of these relief camps being located in such schools.
The displaced persons have been provided temporary shelter at the Poonagala Tamil College, the Poonagala Primary School, Poonagala Sinhala Mahavidyalaya and the Poonagala Kovil. The total number of those housed at these shelters stands at 1,100, of which 226 were residents of Media Badda. Newsfirst inspected the displacement camp set up at the Poonagala Tamil College this morning. Our cameras captured various activities being carried out by those residing at these camps in memory of their loved ones who lost their lives and homes in the landslide.
Dr. Ranil Senanaika, the chairman of the conservationist group Rainforest Rescue International, says that the causes of the Coastlanda tragedy can be traced back to 150 years ago. He made this observation in conversation with Newsfirst Stephanie Lazarus.
Disaster struck.
Yes.
Media Badda Coastlanda on the 29th of October.
Yes.
What do you think the reason behind this landslide was, and what really triggered the landslide?
Well, it's a whole sequence of events. The whole hill country is at risk. If you know, just a year ago or a little while ago, 2 years ago, we had problems in Walapani. Similar. Earth was cracking, everything was getting eroded down. We had similar problems in Rattotal. So what it tells us now is something is happening in our mountains that didn't happen before. 150 years ago, we took all the forests away from our mountains. This is the time of colonial expansion, coffee, tea, rubber of course. They cut all the forests down and they lost the topsoil, which was over 1 foot of topsoil. They lost the topsoil over our entire mountain range in the space of 30 to 40 years. We have weakened our soils now. Now we start creating disturbances in the soil through our activities of blowing up rocks in the neighborhood. When this happens, the slides will happen not only here, this is just a warning. Through the country, it will happen in areas which are very, very prone to sliding. It will accelerate.
So prevention is better than cure.
Of course.
What do you think the people and the authorities should do in order to prevent such an occurrence?
Well, we should first start to make some really, really sensitive maps of our disaster-prone, the slide-prone areas. Those areas should be taken out of the present system of production and moved into a more permanent system where the trees, plants and the forest can then basically begin to stabilize the area. We should, in areas that are really, really weak, drain the surface water out and not allow the surface water to penetrate. Now all these can be done with modern technology. It's not difficult at all. But it requires will. It requires political will to go out and want to make the changes.
Do you think that the authorities are lagging behind in some way in creating awareness among maybe the occupants of the hill country? Because they seem to have had very poor knowledge about landslide.
That is a shame. That is a shame. That they must, as a part of their duty as Sri Lankans, be out there to educate and build the knowledge base up. But I'm not surprised.
Sir, do you think anyone should be held responsible?
I think we all should be. We all should be concerned. We are all responsible.
Vigils and other programs were held in several parts of the island today in memory of those who lost their lives in the Coastlanda landslide.
A community of 5 estates in Labokale Noor area staged a vigil opposite the Kobil this morning by engaging in religious observances for those who lost their lives in the Koslanda landslide. Following the vigil, the group staged a demonstration opposite the Labokale tea factory. The demonstrators said that officials should take measures to avoid such tragedies in the future.
The whole country has to get together and take steps to ensure that such landslides and incidents do not take place again. Many landslides like this are taking place in our areas. Everyone, including politicians, should get together to protect these people.
Residents of the Centre Cross area in Lindula also staged a demonstration today. A demonstration was staged at the Kala Nicholas estate this afternoon. These demonstrators urged that their safety as well as of the future generation be ensured.
We live in mountainous areas. We are asking that situations like this should be prevented in the future. The government should take care of us.
Those who engaged in a demonstration in Talabakale urged the relevant officials to take responsibility to ensure that such an incident does not reoccur.
Governments that reigned for over 100 years know the situation of houses in these areas. The people of this area lived in shanties all this time. We ask the government to provide us with a permanent solution.
Well, now various views have been expressed on the Koslanda landslide. Let's take a look at some of them.
Landslide warnings were issued for this area in 2012 and 2011. We saw the manner in which the government used force to evacuate people in the city in the recent past. Why wasn't such force used to evacuate Tamil estate workers from these lands? We are demanding an answer from the government. In a respected country, when such a tragedy takes place, the ministers and the government resign. However, such ethics do not exist in our country. The National Building Research Organisation has identified several landslide-prone areas. We urge the government not to sacrifice any more lives to such disasters and take immediate steps to address the problem. The owners of these plantations are vested with the responsibility, and the problem is being passed from pillar to post by the ministry. There is no custodian in this country. The government does not take the responsibility. Why do we need a government that issues warnings and takes no action? Is this why the people have voted for them? We know that the NBRO issued a warning in 2005 and renewed the warning in 2011. We can see that it was stated recently that about 39 people were buried following the recent landslide in Media Badda. The number of dead could be higher than the current figure. We need to turn our attention to these areas. We know that in spite of the warnings, the people were not moved away from this area. They must be given an alternative. That is the responsibility of the government. It is our responsibility as public representatives.
ජනතාවට ප්‍රමාණවත් විකල්පයක් දීම මම හිතන්නේ සිදු යුතුයි කියලා මම විශ්වාස කරනවා.
මම කනගාටු වෙනවා මේක කියන්න.
I am saddened to reveal this. There has been a minor landslide in the same area in 2012. The NBRO had warned that action needs to be taken, and based on this, the district secretary had informed the owners of the plantation regarding this. However, the management had not taken any decision regarding the warning. If the warning was heeded, a lot of lives may have been saved.
ජනතාව බේරගන්න පුළුවන්කම තියෙනවායි කියලා.
තිස්ස විතරන අමාත්‍යවරයා පවසන පරිදි මෙවැනි නායයාමක් සිදුවන බවත්.
As Minister Tissa Vitharana says, they had been aware that such a landslide could occur at this location and that there were people residing at this location. The fact that they stood by and let this loss of life happen shows that this was murder. The government is preparing to evict people in other areas for no reason at all. The people in the estates could have been evacuated. The army could have been deployed to evacuate them. The inaction of the government shows the complete disregard for these people. Through this, the government has shown that they have no use for the working people of this country except for when they need something for themselves.
A group led by the Chief Minister of the Northern Province, C.V. Vigneswaran, visited Meerabadda Koslanda today.
Western Provincial Councillor Manu Ganeshan accompanied the Chief Minister of the Northwestern Province on this visit. The Chief Minister held talks with security forces personnel involved in the relief effort. We have got used to such tragedies. These people feel the same pain as us. That is why I came to this location. Our people will support the relief effort for these people. Talks have been held with the relevant parties regarding providing care for orphan children. Many people have told us that accommodation and education can be provided for these children. In addition, a group of our doctors have decided to assist in the effort. We are working to provide all these things from Vavunia.
Vasantha Samarasinghe, North Central Provincial Council of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, has directed a letter to the Switzerland Embassy in Colombo over a recent statement made by Minister of External Affairs regarding the owner of the company which refurbished the official residence of the Sri Lankan Permanent Representative in Geneva. Vasantha Samarasinghe requests that the Swiss Embassy in Colombo to authenticate the document tabled by Professor G.L. Pires in Parliament recently, which is now the centre of much controversy.
Vasantha Samarasinghe, North Central Provincial Councillor of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, in his letter to the Swiss Embassy in Colombo, states that based on an audit report compiled by senior officials attached to the Ministry of Finance, the owner of the company which undertook the contract, P.T. Thurayraja, was arrested by the Swiss Federal Police on a date between the 10th and 12th of January 2011 in connection with his alleged affiliation with the LTTE. The letter states that Samarasinghe had made an expose regarding the audit report 2 years after it was compiled, and in response the Minister of External Affairs had tabled a document in Parliament on the 30th of October. Samarasinghe requests the Swiss Embassy in Colombo to authenticate the document which states that Thurayraja was not connected to the LTTE. Meanwhile, United People's Freedom Alliance parliamentarian Vasantha Senanayake had addressed a letter to the Minister of External Affairs requesting answers over the allegations levelled at the Secretary to the Ministry of External Affairs. In his letter, MP Senanayake raised the following questions.
Did she undermine Indo-Lanka relations by conveying falsehoods to the President about Mrs. Sushma Swaraj, who headed the Indian parliamentary delegation that came to Sri Lanka in 2012 and is now Minister of External Affairs? I learnt that it was the Secretary to the President who intervened to change the President's inclination not to meet the delegation based on blatant untruths expressed by her. Is this true? That there exists an unanswered audit report alleging misconduct and abuse of funds in relation to the residence of the PR in Geneva, which also allegedly involved awarding a contract to an agency with links to the LTTE. Is this at all true? If so, what does the good lady do to continue justifying being employed by the government? Did she not give the appalling advice to the President regarding a visit to Britain in November 2010 to address the Oxford Union, despite written advice from the High Commissioner in London at the time to the contrary?
Following the incident involving former High Commissioner Chris Nonis, we saw various views being expressed about the Secretary to the Ministry of External Affairs, and we saw numerous allegations being levelled. While all this was happening, I felt that as a responsible member of Parliament, we had a duty to say something about this. So as per the facts that were mentioned in the audit report and the matters that were brought up by responsible former ambassadors, including Tamara Kunanayagam, Danja Tilaka and Rajiva Vijay Singha, I addressed a letter to Minister G.L. Pires. I also presented several allegations levelled against the External Affairs Secretary to ascertain the truth of the matter. Although I have addressed this letter to him, I am disappointed to say that there has been no response to date. He has not even informed me if this is a lie or the truth. We have seen various statements being made by Minister G.L. Pires in the media, but when I as a parliamentarian have addressed a clear letter to the minister, why is it that he cannot write a letter in response? That is all I have to ask at this moment.
Minister of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Development Rajita Senaratne says that an opportunity to prevent the EU ban on fish imports from Sri Lanka could have been prevented if it were not for the activities of an official at the Ministry of External Affairs. The minister made this revelation at a media briefing held today.
The European Union informed us that they would keep it open until the 25th and wait for documents sent by us. We compiled a beautiful file. It was very beautiful and even I understood it. We held a meeting to submit the file and it was entrusted to AMZA at the Ministry of External Affairs. Preparations were made to send a technical delegation there and then photocopies were sent for the visa application. They faxed the documents at the same time to secure the visas. Unfortunately, afterwards they tried to contact AMZA. They put the application on the 22nd and called Hamza continuously on the 23rd. There was no answer from Hamza. He did not answer his office telephone or his hand phone. What had happened was that he had resigned and gone home. On the morning of the 24th, we spoke to the EU ambassador and asked him what had happened with the visa application. They said nothing had happened. He had put everything in his drawer and left. In the morning, it was all cancelled. All the visa documents and everything else was in that file. So in the end, what happened was that none of the submissions we had made were included in the EU report. The minister also claimed that the decision of the EU was the result of a long-term process. They have not sat at the International Indian Ocean Commission since 2014. Allegations were leveled continuously and there was no response. They started saying everything, including what was right and what was wrong. That is what caused the backlog and the bad name. We are trying to rectify it now. Speaking further, the Fisheries Minister expressed the following sentiment. I am not prepared to do business here. The ministerial position and business are separate. I left the business to come here. I was involved in business, but I closed it down. I had to close it down when I was a minister in the UNP government. I had to close the company because I did not have the time. Other people open businesses when they become ministers. I came forward with nothing, not even my public sector pension when Vijay Kumaratunga was assassinated. I spent money on all the leftist movements at the time. I had to close down everything. I can only do one of the two.
Western Provincial Councillor Hirunika Premachandra expressed these views while delivering her maiden address in council today.
This is my first speech as a provincial councillor. As the daughter of a minister, I was able to secure the highest number of votes from the Colombo district under the UPFA banner for the 6th province. I'm very happy about my appointment. I'm glad I have the opportunity to speak here today as the daughter of a minister who worked tirelessly for the development of this province. I am here to be fair and just to the people. My appointment and my father's death are two separate incidents. I will not let my father's death conflict with my appointment. One day this position will not matter. I want to be fair to my father. I'm thankful to all of you who supported me in my journey to reach this position. I also wish to thank all those who resorted to mudslinging, as it was your attempts that made this girl a strong woman today.
In business news this evening, the importation of the country's requirement of the crude oil and coal had been entrusted to the State Shipping Corporation once again. The first ship carrying a cargo of crude oil under this program reached the Colombo harbour this morning.
Although the Ceylon Shipping Corporation played a major role in the importation of oil to the country in the past, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation says that this process was halted in 1994. For the first time in 20 years, the Ceylon Shipping Corporation provided its ships for the transportation of oil to the country. The vessel carrying a cargo of 9,000 metric tons of crude oil from the United Arab Emirates reached the oil unloading buoy just outside the Colombo harbour today. Petroleum Corporation has entrusted the task of importing crude oil to the country to the Ceylon Shipping Corporation completely. The importation of coal for the Noronchole power plant station has also been entrusted to the Ceylon Shipping Corporation. Shipping Corporation is currently using ships chartered from the private sector for this purpose. In 2013, the Ceylon Shipping Corporation was facing a situation where it did not have a single ship. Now within the space of 2 years, we will have 2 ships that are being built for the shipping corporation. It will take about 1.5 years for the construction to be completed. We have taken steps to obtain 3 ships as per a trade agreement.
The expenditure heads of the Ministries of Defence and Urban Development and Law and Order were adopted in Parliament today. Let's take a look at some of the views expressed in Parliament today.
There is no trust in the police anymore. As a result of the politicisation of the police, the people do not get any relief from them. There are good singers in the police and their wives and children asking that they be given an opportunity on these star programs. I wish to note at this moment that it is a suitable program to provide a separate marking scheme for their children when it comes to interviews.
අමතර ලකුණු සංඛ්‍යාවක් වෙනම ලබා දීමේ ක්‍රමයක් සෝදානම් කරන එක ඉතාමත් උචිත වැඩපිළිවෙලක් කියන එක මම මේ වෙලාවේ කියනවා.
There was a grave injustice that was committed in Alutgama. I was assaulted. I lodged a complaint with the police. Even though I am a parliamentarian, they haven't even recorded a statement from me yet. No matter how much they are criticized or how much they are reprimanded, the police are some of the hardest workers in the public service. We do not have any notable criticism of former IGP Mahinda Balasurya. We do not have any major blame to place on him. But if you look at the process, you cannot disregard the space there is for jingoism. The police fired shots, some people were killed, and a large number were injured. For the first time, the IGP accepted responsibility and resigned. That was a positive step. But what happened thereafter? He was appointed ambassador to the UAE. Then he was appointed secretary to the Ministry of Law and Order. It is then that you realize that it is all theatre. The resignation was an act for theatre.
Also speaking in Parliament, MP Sujiba Senasing expressed the following views.
With regard to foreign policy, we can see that you allowed David Cameron to go wherever he wanted when he came to Sri Lanka.
ඒකනේ ගහන්න තිබ්බා. ඔබතුමානේ දැන් ගහන්න හාල් මැස්සොන්ට ගහන්න නැතුව අර නෝනිස් වගේ ගහන්න තිබ්බනේ කැමරන් වගේ හොඳ ඔබතුමාට වැඩි උසමාත පුද්ගලෙට. ඒ වගේම විශේෂයෙන්ම මොකද?
Listen to me, we do not need to ask anyone to fill up our land. Unlike you, we do not fill up other people's land. We are not beggars who can't scrape together 5,000 rupees. Look at you now, 3 helicopters and 2 planes, when there was a time when you wrote a check for 5,000 rupees that was returned. He got lucky in Dubai and is now destroying the government.
Well, now some of the images contained in the following Crime Watch report may be distressing to our viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Two individuals were arrested this morning in connection with the assault on the librarian of the Balanguda Municipal Council. The suspects had cut off the woman's foot. Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana stated that the weapon used in the crime has also been found. The librarian is currently receiving treatment for her injuries in the intensive care unit of the Balanguda Hospital. She is 50-year-old Stella Pushpani Vikramaratna. The police stated that this incident occurred due to a dispute over a land and that they are yet to recover the part of the foot that was cut off.
Up next is Action TV.
The Human Rights Commission stated yesterday that the investigation report of the incident where a Sri Lankan woman was sexually abused by her employer while serving as a housemaid in Oman and made to undergo a forced abortion by embassy officials at a safe house where she was given refuge after she went to the embassy seeking help to be produced in 2 weeks. The order was made to the Deputy General Manager and media spokesperson of the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment. 3 individuals, including the Deputy General Manager and officials attached to the safe house in Oman, were named as respondents in the complaint lodged with the Commission by the woman who was sexually abused in Oman. The victim in her complaint notes that no justice was served with regard to the incident. In August, the Secretary of the Foreign Employment Bureau and ASP attached to the NCPA and an officer of the External Affairs Ministry conducted an investigation in Oman over the incident. After the investigation, it was revealed that the victim was not subjected to an abortion. The Deputy General Manager was present at the Human Rights Commission on the complaint lodged yesterday. The victim, who arrived in the island in September, stated that she was forced into an abortion by the officials at the safe house.
Medical examinations should determine this. If we are to find out through medical examinations, we have to consider everything the doctors say as well as the reports of the medical examinations. It is according to these reports that these facts have been presented.
The Sri Lankan ambassador to Oman and the secretary to the Ministry of External Affairs have been named as witnesses in this complaint.
Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that innovations in transport and logistics attributed to the success in the humanitarian operation. He made this statement at an international conference which commenced in Colombo today.
The international conference of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport commenced in Colombo today with the participation of many international representatives. Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa delivered the keynote address at the event.
In every field and in most areas of day-to-day work, logistics and transport plays a significant role. Quite often, the success or failure of the project or work depends on the successes or failure of the logistics aspect of that project. This is particularly true of the military. Take for example the humanitarian operation that freed Sri Lanka from 3 decades of terrorism. The innovations made in transport and logistics during this campaign greatly aided its success. These innovations were necessitated by the numerous challenges that the military faced in combating the ruthless terrorism of the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Nadu.
The book Right to Information, a guide for advocates, was launched yesterday in Colombo.
The event, which was held in the BMICH, was organized by the Sri Lanka Press Institute and was attended by a distinguished gathering including legal professionals and academics.
If you think of it very simply, RTI is all about people's sovereignty. The people appoint and elect public officials to carry out their wishes and to look after their interests. Public officials have information that is vital. The people have a right to that information. It's a very simple logic. So in other spheres, the same logic applies unquestioned. But it's only in the sphere of governance and public policy that we question the right of individual citizens to information that is relevant to them. This is why I say that public demand is crucial for a successful campaign on the right to information.
Right to information. Is it to know the secret governments or to know the government secrets? Now, I would like to begin with saying the very purpose of demanding the right to information is for the purpose of empowering the people. And why it should be done, and thereby actually you can bridge the gap between the ruler and the ruled. This is the only way in which that gap can be meaningfully bridged.
The British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, John Ranking, visited the indigenous community in Damana this morning.
The High Commissioner made this visit with the aim of gaining an insight into the problems faced by the indigenous community. The High Commissioner, who paid a visit to the house of the Vedda chief, Uruvarige Vannila Atto, held a cordial discussion with him. To mark his visit, the High Commissioner planted an Ashoka tree and had a Kirikoraha Shanti Karmiya performed for him.
It has been a particular privilege to come and visit the Vedda community here, to pay my respects to the chief and to learn about the way of life of the indigenous Vedda community here. And I've also been privileged to receive the hospitality and blessings of the community here. So I've learned a lot from this. And as I say, I think all of us have much to learn from the Vedda community and from similar indigenous communities all around the world.
The Colombo Magistrates Court today rejected the bail application of Minister Mervyn Silva's son Malaka Silva, who was arrested on charges of assaulting a foreign couple, and further remanded him until November 11th. Malaka Silva was arrested by the Colombo Crimes Division on November 1st following a complaint lodged by the foreign nationals and remanded till today after being produced at court. Silva, who had allegedly sustained minor injuries from the brawl, had been admitted to the Colombo National Hospital, where he is currently receiving treatment at the ICU under police custody.
What is the mood in the US like, with polls just about to open? Zulfiq Farzan joins us with more.
As the final campaigning for the midterm elections are over,
The candidates fighting for 33 of the 100 seats in the US Senate and all 435 seats in the House of Representatives will await their fate as the results begin to roll in later today. The voters will go to polls today in a short while. The voters in more than half of the US states will also be electing governors as well as other state office holders such as the Secretary of State and the Attorney General. Now the Democrats, who I spoke to earlier on in the day, are very confident that they will win the elections. However, we'll have to wait to see for the results of what will happen.
In sports news, the 28th Sports First Gamada Krida program was held at the Panvilathanna Mahavidyalaya in Gampola today. The Sports First Gamada Krida program intends to identify local sporting talent and introduce them on the international arena. The training camp commenced this morning following the boat race. Former Sri Lanka cricket captain Arjuna Ranatunga, veteran athlete Yogananda Vijayasundara and several senior coaches participated in the program. Training camps which are being held for various sports ranging from track and field to contact sports and cricket.
Right, good.
Well, with that, we wrap up Primetime News for today. Thank you very much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Joel Outskun. Take care and good night.